Hey, what's good everybody? Welcome back to another video. Today we have an interesting topic called call and response. It's something that is present within almost every kind of music other than something that's like meditative or ambient or something. And it is kind of like the backbone of creating like catchy music or something that is largely memorable. Well, the thing about music is that anything can actually make it memorable, even if the song is terrible. Like Rebecca Black's Friday song was awful. No hate towards her because she made a hit song, but even she knows that it was terrible. I think that the entire outlook of that tune was a meme and it paid off, and congrats to her or whoever produced that song. You know what I'm saying. So call and response in essence is kind of a question and an answer. It is a to a B. It is the black to the white. It is the contrast of a conversation. And when you kind of take that into the context of writing something for your hook or maybe something for a bass line, there's a lot of different ways to go about it. I was having a discussion with somebody the other day, or actually on Discord, of like creating multiple call and responses and stuff. And the thing about it is that a lot of times within music, we actually have a single question that leads to a single answer. And the flip side to that, and something that I've noticed that I try to do within my music, is to actually have a full-blown conversation within the means of my song. Now, the topic of the song can be relative to a single topic, but you can ask several questions about something that can lead to multiple answers. For example, if I say, describe this blue dragon right now, somebody might say, well, it's got a lot of teeth, or it's got a kind of like a finny tail, or it's blue and it's in the ocean. And that was one question that has multiple answers. In the context of what I'm talking about, like what happens if you have a single synth noise that revolves around, like a beat, and then your response is all of those different things within the context of, kind of music that we're talking about in its own right. And once you start thinking about that, it kind of may help you find variation within your music to help make that stuff more interesting. There's nothing wrong with the simple call and response of, hey, yo, hey, yo, because sometimes that can work really well. And maybe even you can do a smaller variation of, hey, yo, hey, or something along those lines. But it's an interesting thing for you guys to think about if you ever feel stuck with writing main sections to your tunes. I think for the most part, the people that I talk to have issues writing main sections because they can't make their main basses or something sound interesting, which is totally fine. But if we can kind of like remove that concept or remove that blockade and instead think about rhythm, then that kind of helps us design a conversation in the first place. For example, for me, I have a particular speech flow, I think is the best way to describe it, whenever I'm talking to you guys. Something, 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 something. Okay, break that down into a rhythm. You can't hear that, but dun 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 dun. Okay, well imagine if you put a tempo to that and then you recorded that as a means. I was talking to same conversation, but if you talk to yourself and kind of add in those things and you don't worry so much about the specific noises, then that can help you actually create these kinds of bass lines that we're looking for. And then like when you go back and you like add effects and like glitch those kinds of things, you can make it more complex. But I mean, it's kind of up to you. The reason why I wanted to bring this up is because I find it incredibly interesting in means of evolving music over time. How do we create something that is evolving not just with a sonic palette but also in terms of creating a more complex or an evolved arrangement? And I say that, but at the same time, like we kind of like can go back to something like classical music and look at all of the little call and responses that people have in their music. Like you ever hear a particular song and it's got a really heavy brass sound, it's got really loud horns, and then it stops for a second, it has like a really quiet little flute. You hear it super commonly within things like cartoons back in the day that didn't have any words, like Tom and Jerry or Looney Tunes, like from way back when. And you'll notice that the call and responses or the conversations that they have is completely telling a story without these words. And it's amazing because it's something that I don't think that people are really evolving on within the electronic scene that I would like to see go. And it's something that I've been trying to incorporate myself, maybe in a more of a subconscious manner, for since I started kind of making music. I've talked about this before in an earlier video, but my goal with making tunes is to not really have any repeating parts, kind of like an electronic symphony, if you will, but not so much as in creating a one-to-one parallel of like making it sound classical, but just as a means of having this familiar theme, but varying on it so much that it does seem like a dynamic story or a dynamic conversation in its own right. How you guys think of music is totally up to you, and I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of you guys don't really like think about these things, and it's a much more streamlined process of I need to create like a cool riff and then create like a cool response to that. But you guys know me, and I like to think about different things that are potentially deeper than what it is that we're actually doing. The psychology behind what goes into the decisions that we make, since there are thousands and thousands when we go into a song, kind of like reveal themselves if you kind of like dig a little bit deeper. And sometimes those can be exploited, and sometimes it can spiral you out to a crazy like mental block, and sometimes it can just like, I don't know, fuel your creativity in a completely different direction. But this is kind of the thing that I think about whenever we're talking about music as a whole. So I'm curious, what are your guys' thoughts? How do you guys perceive music, and what are some of like your guys' ways of how you think about creating some bass lines, or, you know, call and response or XYZ? Because obviously there's no right or wrong answer. It's just something that I was thinking and discussing with some people earlier. And hopefully that can give you some insight if you have, you know, beat block, or you find yourself struggling to create an interesting conversation. Talk to yourself. Just don't like answer yourself out loud, because that makes you crazy from whatever. Anyways, be sure to check out the Patreon and the website and the Discord. And thank you guys so much for watching my videos as always. I really appreciate it. I really do. And I will see you in the next video.